I'm Annabelle Lusardi, and I'm one of the coaches for the Financial Leadership Academy, and I'm also the coordinator of support services for the Mid-Atlantic Foundation. I'm the one who's sending you the emails every day, so I hope you're not having any problems getting the challenges. If you are having any issues or if you have any questions, please email me or give me a call, and I will try and help you out. So I really wish that we were in person getting together at the Eden Resort as we did last year, but under the circumstances, I know you understand why we're filming. I am here today in Fallston United Methodist Church, my home church in our beautiful sanctuary. I want to tell you a little bit about my background before I start with the challenge, because I want you to know that you are actually right now in an amazing place at an amazing time, and I know you're doing amazing things. And I want to highlight that by telling you a little bit about my story. So I was recently told that my accent is undetectable. I'm not actually sure that that's completely true, certainly not all of the time, but in case you hadn't picked up on it, I was not born in this country. I grew up in England, and I moved to the States in 1989, which was the year that I graduated from college and the year that I married my husband, Tom, who is from New Jersey. We lived in New Jersey for a few years, and we have now been in Maryland for the last 22 years. I consider this my home. I've raised 3 children here. I've adopted some of your stranger customs. I now eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, not a thing in England. But I consider myself at home. And unfortunately, I will still never be able to say the word banana the way that you would have me do it. Anyway, growing up, I attended a very small church in our small village in England. It was a Church of England church, and we had a tiny congregation that was pretty faithful, and we showed up every Sunday for our Sunday services. We followed the traditional Church of England liturgy. We heard a sermon, we prayed for one another and for the world. Occasionally we heard about events that were coming up, maybe the Harvest Festival or the Summer Fair. And every week there was an offering collected. The plate went around and everybody dutifully dropped their envelope into the plate. I never remember hearing anything about where that money went. Knowing what I know now, I suspect some of it did get sent out to missions locally and globally, but that was never mentioned during our services. My parents were involved in leadership roles in the church, and I do remember some discussions about finances. How are they going to be able to finance getting new heating in the church? Not sure they ever did that. It was a very cold stone church. Slates had fallen off the 800-year-old roof. That needed to be fixed. And so I understood that finances were a concern, but I never heard about what was being done with the money. Fast forward 30-plus years to my new home here in the United Methodist Church, and I now belong to a church that has a very different DNA around our finances. We're a large church. We have an active Sunday school, a vibrant youth group, many small groups ministries, lots of global and local outreach missions. And that has been true for many years. But over the last few years, I believe there's one thing that has changed our DNA as a congregation, and it is something that we have done during our weekly worship. Every week, we have a moment before our offering is collected called the Impact of Your Generosity. It's short, but it is a time for us to explain to the congregation, or to hear as the congregation, what is being done with the money that we are donating to the church. It might be a description of all the food that has been collected for a local food drive. It might be a video that we show of our children when they went to when they went to the Rock Festival. It might be just a list of the number of backpacks or the number of shoe vouchers that we were able to provide for our back-to-school drive. It's short, but it's impactful. One week, it was actually a shout out to the facilities manager and his wife because they had been responding all week to false fire alarms that were going off in the building. It's just a moment where we thank the congregation for what they're doing to help the community. One week I particularly remember that was incredibly impactful was when the pastor read a letter that she had received. This was a couple of years ago at Christmas, and as a congregation we had provided food and gifts for our sort of adopted families out in the community. And one of those things that we had done was we had sent gift cards to our local high school so that they could be given to some high school students who had been identified by the guidance counselor, who probably were not going to receive Christmas gifts. They might have been homeless, they may have had parents who were incarcerated. For one reason or another, they had no support from home. That guidance counselor wrote a letter to the church that was read to the congregation during our Impact of Generosity moment. And she told the impact that those gifts had had on those teenagers. These children had been moved to tears at the thought that complete strangers had given them gifts that year. When that letter was read to the congregation, it struck one couple so strongly that they approached the church and said, "We would like to do more for those students. We'd like to start a scholarship fund so that those students can go to college." And that's what they did. People heard what they were doing, and as a consequence, we now have a fully endowed scholarship fund that pays for students at risk at our local high school to attend our local community college. That was the result of one letter being read during our moment, our Impact of Generosity moment. So, it's a short moment, but it has changed our DNA. Because we are constantly reminded of what our mission is and how our mission is being lived out in the community, we are led to more generosity. We believe that we're generous, and we act on that generosity. So here's my challenge for you today. If you are already doing a moment like this, awesome, congratulations. Give yourself a big pat on the back. I know some of you are already. And my challenge for you is this: tell your congregation how that moment has helped. What things have come from that moment in your church? Write a note to your congregation, share it with them in your weekly newsletter, share it with them somehow, however you communicate with your congregation, and then let your coach know how you have done that sharing. If you don't yet have that moment, now's the time to start. My challenge to you is this: pick a date when you're going to start, pick your first 3 topics, and tell your coach when and what that is going to be. Think of a name for it. We like having that name, the Impact of Your Generosity. Feel free to use that name. We don't have it patented. But come up with your own. It could be the mission moment. It could be a celebration of generosity. It could be thanks a bunch. You know your context. Be creative, come up with a good name, and share it every week. And in this time of COVID, the beautiful thing about this moment is you can do it in person or you can do it online. It just takes a few moments. It can be as simple as the pastor just talking. It can be as fancy as getting a big video created with music background and slides and graphics or whatever. You do what works for you. If you start this moment, I think you will find that you will see transformation in your congregation. Remember what Cliff Christopher told us last year? People want to back a winning horse. They want to believe in the mission, and they want to see evidence of lives transformed. You can do that every single week during your worship time. So that's your challenge. I can't wait to hear about you, how you're doing with it, and I will see you soon, hopefully in person. If not, I will be hearing from you all as time goes by. Have a great day.